Hi, welcome to my channel. I am Gift and you're welcome to Gift and Couture. I know you clicked it because it's an 8 pieces dress, alright. So the fabric that I use is Mikado and actually use 3 yards. But I will advise if you're on a bigger size, use 3.5 to 4 yards, okay? Because the 3 yards that I bought was not enough for me to make the sleeves big as full as the one you saw on the thumbnail. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to measure the length of your pattern paper. Now for this pattern paper is 35, so I had to add to it. So the length is of the pattern paper is 35, all right, and so I added 4 inches to it, making 39. So I went ahead to measure 39, and that's it. So after that, go ahead and mark 1 inch, and that 1 inch is for the top line. Okay, so when you are done, go ahead and connect it. For this pattern, we'll be using both front and the back together. Away from that 1 inch, mark 1.5. So I'm going to connect the lines when I'm done taking the measurement, all right, but let's go ahead and connect these ones. All right, so the next thing is to go ahead and measure your shoulder measurement on that 1.5 line. Remember, you measure 1.5, and for the neck depth I use 3 inches, the neck width I use 3 inches as well. So when you are done, go ahead and connect it. All right, just go ahead and connect the neck together, and that's all for the neckline. This is just the basic neckline. All right, so from there, go ahead and place your table from that top line downward and measure 10, your bust point rather, just measure your bust point. Mine is 10.5, so I marked it and then connected the lines together. So for your shoulder slope, you're going to go up by half an inch and mark, then connect it. That line is going to be used for your shoulder joining. All right, so from there, go ahead and place your tape rule just like from that shoulder line, which is 1.5 downward, and divide your bust into 6. When you divide your bust into 6 plus 1.5, whatever you have, you are going to mark it there, and that's what you're going to be using as your across chest. Go ahead and do the same thing. All right, so on that across chest, you are going to divide your across chest measurement into 2 and mark it on that line. So if you don't know how to get your across chest, minus half an inch from your shoulder and mark it on that line. So when you are done, go ahead and connect it. On that across chest, you are going to measure your bust measurement, divide your bust into 4 and mark it. For me, my bust is 36 divided by 4, you have 9 inches. So the distance from that bust to your across chest, divided into 4 for the front, divided into 4, and then mark it on that angle. Now from the distance from your shoulder to your across chest measurement, whatever you have, divided into 2, and then on the midpoint you are going to go in by 0.5 and then use it to contour your armhole. Just like this, you are done contouring your armhole. All right, so go ahead and use either your hand, your free hand, or your French cuff. Next measurement is to place your table from your shoulder, the neckline downward, and measure your under bust and then your half length. For me, my half length is 17.5. Remember, the front half length is different from the back half length. So from that half length downward, you are going to mark 8 inches, which is going to be used as your hip line. All right, go ahead and mark it. So now that you are done, let's go ahead and connect the lines together. So let's move to the back now. So from the back downward, from the top line downward, you're going to measure your nape to waist or your half back length. All right, so for me it's 16 inches, so I'll go ahead and mark it on that back half length and then went ahead to connect the lines. Go ahead and do it as well. All right, so from that downward, you are going to measure 8 inches, all right, and then connect it just like the way we did for the front. So from that neck, from your shoulder, just like the way we did for the front, from your shoulder line downward, divide your bust into 6 and add 1.5 to it. When you are done, go ahead and connect it. So just like this, you've drawn your across back line. So on that shoulder line, the back shoulder, go ahead and divide your back shoulder measurement into 2 and then mark it. So on the across back, put your shoulder back measurement on it, and that's it. So on the neckline, on the top line, go ahead and use the 3 inches that we use, and then the neck depth is 1.5 that I use. So you're just going to go ahead and connect it. All right, so now that you're done, go ahead and connect your shoulder slope and then extend your measurement from your shoulder to your across back measurement and then connect the line. So on that across back measurement, you are going to put your bust measurement there and then measure the distance from the across back to the bust measurement. Whatever you have, you divide it by 2. Remember, for the front you divide it by 4, for the back you divide it by 2. Just like that. When you are done, go ahead and contour it. So let's go to the bust line. On your bust lines, all right, divide your bust into 4 and then mark it both front. The waistline, divide your waist into 4 and then mark it. On the hip line, divide it into 4 and then also mark it. All right, so when you are done, go ahead and connect it with your ruler. Okay, so on the hip line, like I said, divide it into 4. So when you are done, go ahead and connect it. You are going to connect it straight, like from your bust to your hip. All right, so let's go ahead and label it: the across chest, the across back for the back, the bust point for the front, and the bust point for the back, the waistline, and also the waistline for the back. Then lastly, the hip line and also the hip line for the back. All right, so remember I said the difference between the waistline of the front, like the half length of the front and the back, is what we are going to be using for the side bust. Okay, now next thing is to go ahead and divide your bust span into 2. Mark it on the bust line, the waistline, and then the hip line. Go ahead and connect it just like this. Okay, now the measurement you have on the hip line downward, extend it and connect it to the length of your paper. Okay, go ahead and do the same thing for the back. Measure the same measurement you have on the hip line, extend it downward and connect the lines just like this. Now the same measurement you use on your bust band, extend it to the length of your measurement and then connect it. Okay, so the same thing that you did, divide your bust band into 2. That's for the back. Divide it into 2, measure it on the bust line, the waistline, the hip line, and the hem line. So when you are done, go ahead and connect it. Okay, now we are done. We are going to measure the bust dart. Okay, so for me the bust dart is 1.5, and I'm going to take it up from there and place it on my bust point downward. So go ahead and do the same thing. If you don't know how to measure your nape to waist, please let me know in the comment section so that I can make a video tutorial on it for you. Okay, so now that you are done, you're going to connect it to meet your bust span. Now the distance from the straight line that you drawn to where your waist measurement is, okay, go ahead and divide it into 3. So you are going to mark it on the bust spine, on the side waist, and come to the back. For the back, you are going to go ahead and measure the same distance. Whatever you have, divide it into 3. So because I don't want the zip to bolt, all right, I'm going to share it on the zipper line, on the bust point line, and then connect it. On the side line, I also use half an inch because my waist is 31 and I use 32. So the 1 inch is what I actually use to share on both sides. I don't know. So that means I use half an inch on the side of the back, half an inch on the side of the front. Okay, so that after I was done, I went ahead to connect it. Go ahead and do the same thing. Please, if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do well to subscribe. Do this to support me. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Make sure you like the video so that it can reach more audience. So now that we are done, let's go ahead and divide the shoulder into 2. Okay, now the distance from the armhole to where the neckline stops, divide your shoulder into 2 and connect it to your bust point. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the bust tightening. Now the bust tightening, you are going to measure your bust, under bust measurement, whatever you have. So for me, my round under bust is 30 and my bust measurement is 36. So 36 minus 30, you have 6 inches. 6 inches divided by 6, all right, you have 1. So that one, you are going to put 1 on the center side and 1 inch on the other side, and then when you are done, go ahead and connect it. Remember, you are not sharing that one. So when you are done, connect it from your under bust to your waistline, connect that line just like that, and then you are good to go. Okay, so just like this, let's go ahead and add half an inch on the armhole, and then the seam line I added 1 inch. You can increase it to 1.5 if you like, but look at how I place my tape rule. I place my tape rule on the dart and to add my 1 inch measurement, and then when I was done, I went ahead to connect the dart. So go ahead and do the same thing as well. All right, so on the armhole for the front, I went ahead to add half an inch as well. So to close the side bust, you are going to cut through from your shoulder downward, and then let's go ahead and separate this pattern paper rather, and let's just remove the center dart, just like what you're seeing on the screen, for it to be easier, so that when we are closing the dart it will be easier. So next thing is, there are different methods to close this dart, but for this one I'm going to fold it and then use my masking tape to hold it just like this. So next thing, you can see the way I close it. Use your masking tape to hold it. Maybe in my next tutorial I might use another method, you get. Next thing is to go ahead and cut out this dart just like this. We are done closing this side dart. Now for the neckline, I went ahead to use my masking tape to join it together, because I'm supposed to have cut the neckline before slitting it out. Because I only have one phone, I've gone ahead to take the neck measurement. Now from your armhole down to your neckline, I still maintain the same neckline that I use, and the length of the neck that I use is almost 7 inches, like 6.7 inches. Okay, that's what I used to get the neck depth. Okay, and then I went ahead to connect the line. So if you want your own to go a little more deeper than that, you can do it. Like I said, from the neckline I maintain the same neckline and then cut it out. Lest I forget, this is a Queen Anne neckline. Okay, so because it's a pieces dress, I'll go ahead and cut out the shoulder. So you know it's a pieces dress. All right, so we are going to divide the side bust measurement into two. All right, so the center front, we are going to leave it like that. Now from the armhole to where I measured the center side, I actually use 3 inches. Okay, so just like that is 3 inches. So I'm going to divide that 3 inches into two, and on the under bust, divide the distance into two. The waistline, the distance from the side, okay, you're going to divide it into two to where it stops. Just measure it and divide it into two. Your hip line, go ahead and do the same thing, and on your hemline, whatever measurement you have, whether it's 4, divide it into two, and then when you are done, go ahead and connect it. You can see the way I'm connecting it. All right, just go ahead and connect it like this. Next thing is to go ahead and label it. Okay, just label it the waistline, just know where the waistline is. And the next thing I did was to go ahead and add my seam allowance. Go ahead and do the same thing. You can add 1.5, like I said. For me, I like using 1. So after I was done, I went ahead to cut it out into two. Now we have like 3 pieces, so go ahead and label it number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay, since it's a 8 pieces dress, the center front is going to have divided into 2. Okay, let's go to the back. For the back, divide the neck to the shoulder measurement into 2, and then connect it to where you stop your dart. So here I was trying to get a new neck for the back. At the end of the day, I used the high neck, so don't worry about the line. So just go ahead and connect your shoulder like this to meet the dart, and now the distance from the side to where the line is, divided into 2. Okay, on the waistline from the side to where the dart is, and make sure you go ahead to close that your 1.5 or 2 inches depending on your own side dart. So I went ahead to close it. You can cut it out or close it, and then remove your back dart just like this. So on your waistline, you are going to go ahead and divide the distance from the side dart, from the middle dart to where the side is. Okay, just go ahead and divide it into 2. The same thing on the hemline to where the actual measurement is. Please do not include the seam allowance. Divide it into 2. When you are done, go ahead and connect it. Okay, so on the shoulder line, we are still going to divide that shoulder into 2. Now the distance from that neckline to where the armhole is, divided into 2 again, and then go ahead and connect the lines just like this. Just like this, we've gotten like 3 pieces. Okay, on the shoulder line, you're going to add your seam allowance 1/2 inch, and then go ahead and connect it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I would have loved to cut everything out, but I wanted you to see how I removed the dart. Okay, just go ahead and remove it that like this, and then when you are done, you are good to go. Okay, so when you are done, get your fabric, and before you get your fabric, please make sure you label it number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay, so the next thing is to go ahead and remove your dart. Make sure you remove your dart, and then continue to cut it out. So when you are done, go ahead and fold your fabric into 2. You're going to fold your fabric into 2. All right, and then place your pattern. There's a technique to it in order to avoid wasting of fabric. The first line is the center front. I place it and I gave it enough space because there is joining on the center front, and On the other side, which is the joining, you're going to add half and stop at the waistline. So stop it there and then go ahead and connect it to get the flare on the down part. I actually use my bust span. Now it depends on you and how full you want it to be. For me, I use my bust span. You know, my bust span is 8 divided by 2. I use 4 inches on this side and 4 inch on the other side to get the flare. All right, so I'll go ahead and mark the 4 inch on that side and then add the 4 inch on this side. Like I said, it depends on how you want your own to be. If you want your own to be fuller or you just want it to be smaller, you can control it depending on the inches that you put. Okay, from the waistline, you are now going to go ahead and connect it. Now on the side front, okay, that we divided, you can see how I place it. The side front, I place it downward. Okay, this will help you on how to maintain, not to waste your fabric. So you're going to place it downward. You can see it's different from the hemming line. So from there, you're going to go ahead and add your seam allowance on the side. Okay, just like that. Add your seam allowance on the side and let it stop on the waistline. You can see the hemming line is turned to other side. Okay, and then from there, go ahead and measure how your flare, okay, how you want it to be, and then connect that line just like the way you are seeing on the other side. Go ahead and do the same thing. Please, when you are sewing, before you start sewing, please make sure you notch your half length. Anyways, I'm still going to show you. Connect it from the waistline to the hemline. Okay, just like this and just like that. So just like this, I'm just going to show you how to cut the front, and then the back you can go ahead and do it because it's still the same method. On the armhole side, go ahead and do the same thing, and on the seam allowance, just like this, you can see from that side I use the same measurement, and the next thing is to go ahead and cut it. So when you are done cutting, go ahead and do the same thing on the front. Make sure you notch the waistline. Make sure you notch the waistline, please. So even the back, all right, when you had your zipper allowance, you're going to extend that flare from that waistline downward. Okay, so just like that, we are done. Next thing is to go ahead and start sewing. Now look at how the back is, and also the seam allowance. On the seam line, the extension starts from that waistline. Okay, so just go ahead and do the same thing. All right, so when you are done, let's go ahead and continue sewing. You can see how the back is. Please take note of all these things. To sew it, you're going to take away your pattern paper. Make sure you must have pinned it. Please remove your pins and then join it. Do this so that you won't get it mixed up. Okay, on the center, you're going to join the center. Okay, and then on the side, just arrange it the way you cut your paper. Remove it. Make sure you pin them before going to your machine to sew. For me, I'm not going to be using lining, and the reason is the fabric is very thick. You can see the way I was even trying to pin it. It's very thick. That's the reason even the facing I didn't had what's it called, stitch to it or paper stitch. So go ahead and cut your lining after cutting your fabric, and make sure the lining is kind of shorter, like 3 or 4 inches shorter than the actual length of the fabric. So when you are done, go ahead and sew it. Please make sure you sew the actual inch that you had it. Okay, if you had half, make sure you do it. And this is the back. I also went ahead to sew it. It's very simple, though it takes time when it comes to ironing and weaving. And this is the facing. You can see there is no stay, there is no paper stay on it because of how the fabric is. Please, for your own, I'm begging you, use lining, add paper stay to it. Okay, next thing is to go ahead and sew it. Okay, just turn your lining. So I'll go ahead and turn the facing like this, and after I was done, I decided to try it. I was already feeling it. Here there was no sleeves to get, so this is how it will look like when you finish sewing your own if you follow this simple method. So let's go ahead and continue with the sleeves. All right, so now after I was done cutting, I realized that the fabric was not much. I decided to use this one. That's the reason I said you should use 3.5 or 4 yards. So I had to manage this small fabric. So the length of the sleeve that I use is actually 10 inches, and I use that, I measure that 10 inches. You can go ahead and use 12 or 13 inches, okay, depending on how you want it. After measuring that 10 inches, from that 10 inches downward, I marked 5 inches, okay. Since it has puff, and the width of it, let's say my biceps, okay, I can't use my exact biceps, I actually use 10 inches as well. So depending on how your fabric is, you can use 15. Please just use 15 if you want to get the actual style, but the same cutting, all right, the same method, but use 15 or even 20 depending on how you want it. Because assuming I had more fabric, you get, I would have added more. And then I went ahead to connect the armhole and then notch the center. So the remaining one, I had to cut the second one, and I'm going to fold like so 1 inch as the hemming line, okay. I went ahead to do the same thing there on the other side, and this is how the first one came up, and I'm going to show you how I did. First thing first, you are going to measure your sleeve length how you want it. For example, your round sleeve is 15, you are going to mark it. For me, my round sleeve is 13 plus half an inch, making 14 inches. So 14 divided by 2, you are going to mark it from there. So for me, you mark 6.5 plus, but with the half inch you mark 7. On the other side, go ahead and mark the same inches. And now when you are done, from there upward, you are going to measure 4 inches. Okay, I went ahead to mark 4 inches and connect the line to that part. Okay, on the other side, you're going to mark 4 inches. This is on the wrong side. Please use either your chalk or your pencil on the wrong side, okay. Then mark it. Then when you are done, go ahead and connect like a square and join it, okay. On that square line, that's where you are going to do the pleats. You are going to go ahead and do pleat as much as your fabric is. Yours might be 6. For me, I was able to sew like 4, I think 4 or 3 plates, okay. So go ahead and sew your plate, and when you are done, it should look like this, but make sure it stops on that line where you mark 4 inches rather. So when you are done, it should look like this, okay. When you are done, just turn it to the right side and let's go ahead and do the pleating. Now the pleating depends on how the measurement of your fabric is, but make sure you measure your armhole out, so the remaining one you can use to determine your plate. All right, so go ahead and measure the length of your armhole. After you are done, go ahead and mark it. Now from that armhole side, I marked 4 inches. So from that 4 inches, I added plate to it. On this other side, I measure 4 inches. Here I've already gone ahead to measure my armhole, and then after I calculated the plate, and that was how I got that 4 inches. Like I said, it depends on how the length of your fabric is, okay. That will determine the plate. So on that plate, on that 4 inches, you are going to plait it. You are going to plait the excess, remember the excess of your fabric, and then as you are plaiting, you are still going to take your measurement, so that you won't plait at the end of the day you realize that you actually pleated more, okay. On this other side, you're going to plait the same thing, the same measurement you use on this other side. Like for me, I don't know how your fabric is going to be, but I use 2 inches. So the 2 inches is what I folded on that plate, and you can see how I did the plate. One plate you lay on this side and the other plate on the other side, okay. Go ahead and pin it down. So after this, now on the center, you are going to plait again, okay. You are going to plait it, and there is a technique to that plating. There's a way it's being plaited on the style. You can see the way I measured my armhole. So the remaining one, I realized that it wasn't much, so I just use it to do the plating. But for you that is well informed on the fabric that you are going to use, you can go ahead and do your plating. But look at how the center of that plate is. I've gone ahead to sew it, and you can see like it's kissing plate. So for your own might be much, so when you plait it, the kissing will be much. So the next thing is just for you to go ahead and join the side, okay, and then fix your sleeves, okay. So when you are done, that's it. So thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye.